It's now my honour to welcome Jean-Jerome, if he's going to come and join me, the CEO of Peace in Sport. So, Jean-Jerome, firstly, welcome. We were together in Montpellier just, I think, 2 weeks ago at the Urban Games. So, really, in fact, a quick question, and let's do the same thing. How many of you have not just heard of Peace in Sport? How would you actually claim know broadly what the organisation is? Just give me a show of hands, and don't be embarrassed if you don't know. So it's very much what we have discussed. So we have signed as MEI strategic partnership with your organisation, and this was kind of the part that when you hear about this organisation, you are going to be very impressed, and you're going to want to know more. And I think we proved the point that we've discussed before, that your organisation, Jean-Jerome, is something that's not well known enough. So again, I'm going to try and keep this conversation fairly loose to give Jean-Jerome a question, an opportunity to develop his own ways of answering my questions. So I think perhaps the first thing we do is step back in history. How long? Why? How did it form? All those sort of historical context questions that we need to understand, if that's okay.
Thank you very much. Peace in Sport has been created in 2007, 15 years ago, by former Olympian Joël Bouzou. He had a very great idea the first time when he came in France, and he trained in a suburb of Paris. And he saw so much athletes around and a lot of little kids around that was not access to sports. And he said, I'm training, I have all condition for training. And finally, at the end of the day, most of the kids does not have access. And he tried to organize that under an organization called Rassemblement par le Sport. And then His Highness, the Prince Albert II of Monaco, decided to help Joël and to say, if you want, we can organize exactly the same thing in Monaco, and specifically in the thematic of peace through sports.
And so its origins were very much around disadvantaged backgrounds and the like. And has that endured, and has the footprint of what you do extended?
At the very beginning of the story was about conflict area, but we saw that intervening in a conflict area is very, very difficult. And we saw now in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, it's very complicated to intervene. It's very, I would say, prior the conflict. This is very important to maintain the dialogue and make sure that by sport, through sport, you can bridge community and you can make sure that kids are playing together. Then, during the conflict, it's very complicated because you can help refugees, and we have a very good example of helping refugees in Jordan. And I'm very pleased to have Victor here, who is partner for Peace in Sport, where we use a tech ball in Zatari camp.
It's interesting idea, isn't it? Yeah.
80,000 people living in a refugee camp as a lockdown camp in Jordan. And we use a sport, and especially tech ball, to maintain the dialogue and to bring kids to a new reality, because most of them have been affected by the conflict in Syria. Most of them will never come back to Syria. Most of them are discriminated by the fact that they are leave the country, that they are not fighter for Syria. And through sports, there's many things to do, and we are part of that program. And having international federation is very important for us. So we work with FITEC, but we work with ITTF, with WACO, which is a kickball combat sports and kickboxing.
So would it be right to say that the summary of that is the sort of more mass participation, less infrastructure, relatively easy to deploy? When I say at a lower skill level, I don't mean that in a dismissive way, but so that's really, because as you know, there's 60 federations registered to be involved with this summit. So, and there are from mass participation, obstacle and the like. So I guess, would that be one of the messages you'd like to put to the federations today? If you think there's a contribution that we can make to your work? Would that be worth a conversation?
I think, to be honest, I think most of international federation understood that sport is not only performance. Sport is not bringing athletes to the top level, but using a sport as a tool is very essential. If you look into the conflict territory, one of the first things that we can see that sport has a role. For example, when there is a bomb somewhere, after few days, the first aids comes. So you help kids for the element necessary things. And then the first thing you can do is school. But between the first aids and establish a school system, there is a long period where sports can be something to socialize kids.
Yeah,
and
so it's sort of
exactly
structure, is it? It's distraction, structure.
bringing values, working together, bridging communities, etc. If you look in Africa, for example, you have a lot of tribes issues, for example, in Mali or even what did happen in a Great Lake area in the eastern part of Africa, in Rwanda, Burundi, RDC, was a long-term conflict. And sport is one of the things that we can bridge community, putting together in one place. For example, Burundi, we host friendships games every year, and we can invite community from Rwanda, from RDC, and this is one of the steps ahead to bring peace. It's a drop in the ocean, but it's something that works. And here we all convinced that sports can be something very powerful, but we have to prove as well that sport is not only performance.
Yeah, and it's a key point, isn't it? And just to try and bring alive, actually, how do you do it? I'm just curious. So do you have a sort of a central staff that are, trying to think what the term is, people that can put programs together and they will deploy to, mostly, as you've told me, a post-conflict area, whether it be the refugees or the fact that the situation is stabilizing. So do they go there with a fairly wide brief and say, right, these are the things we know work and now go do? And do they then train people locally and then return to another project?
What we understood from the last couple of years, that having international experts going on the ground, on the field, it's good at the beginning, primary start of the project. But then if you want to make the program sustainable and you want to make sure that all the communities are involved, you need to create the right ecosystem on ground. So one of the things, we have an HQ in Monaco with 15 people, between 15 and 20 people working, and we create expertise. So we create programs, we create a mechanism to establish a program on ground, and then we have local coordinators. If I come back to FITech and what we are doing in Jordan, we have a local coordinators. The coordinators is managing 6 other peace educators, and they deliver the programs. And what is very important in this program, and it's one of the things that I want to say, it's the coalition ecosystem. We don't need to work alone. If you work alone, you will never success. The sustainability part of the program, if at the beginning of the story, you have created the right ecosystem. What is the right ecosystem? You use football or tech ball, you need to involve the international federation. You need to explain them what you're going to do, and you need to explain them as well what's your objective to make sure that they fit their objective. First thing. Then you can establish with the local partner, National Federation, National Olympic Committee, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Sports, university as well, because if you teach some peace educators, you need to source those people from the university with a university background. So it's very important. If you don't do that, I can tell you, I'm not lying, it will never work. If you send expert, when the funds has finished, it's over, nothing happened. So it's very important to create
that buy-in from those key agencies as well.
And I just want to add as well, because there is a lot of host city and suppliers. It's very complicated now to find a local organizer or city to host the event. because most of the time there is not a concrete social programs. That's very important, because you can build all the infrastructure you want, but if at the end of the day you have no kids who is participating, using the facilities, if the event is like for 15 days, but you spend million or billion, then the population doesn't feel it fit the reality and fit the needs of the population. That it's very important, I think, to have a social programs and legacy programs. I do believe that.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I actually can't believe that we've just spent 15 minutes talking about that, and it's gone. I think what I'd love to have done is sit here for another 45 minutes talking to you, but unfortunately I'll get told off badly if we do that, Jean-Jerome. But if we have time for questions, I was getting a signal saying that we were out of time, but where's Tubo? Is she going to guide me whether we've got time for? Well, let's just see then if there is, and we'll try and be as brief as we can. Are there questions somebody want to shout out from very, very quickly? I suspect, actually, you're probably a bit like me. I've got so many other things I'd like to talk to you about, and I think that we'll probably just therefore move on. I think it's been, you know, we're very privileged to be working with you, and I would say that perhaps, if you don't mind, I'll feed the audience and say, if you feel that your appetite has been whetted, and you have a curiosity to know more, I think between us. Just get in touch and we will find a way of getting connected. I'm sure a lot of people in this room are saying, how do we help? And I think that would open up a whole huge conversation, Jean-Jerome. So I'll just say, to be our opening keynote today, thank you very much for agreeing to come.
Thank you very much.
You're a very busy guy. But it's been a privilege and a pleasure to have you here. So thank you once again. So I think a big round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Well, that went very quickly, didn't it? And so that's a lesson for us there. So we're now, Andy, I believe, splitting up. So again, if the host city people would just, I think, probably head that way or out the back door, certainly into the lobby, and then we will keep the momentum going. And enjoy your day. And I'm sure it's going to be good fun and interesting. And remember, network like hell until we tell you stop networking. Okay.